Hello everyone, this is Nitesh, and this is our review of Bravely Default for the 3DS. I'll start, I'll kind of start at the end here and say I will recommend this game to any RPG, JRPG fans. You guys will love this game, but I can't really say the same for people who aren't already RPG fans. You know, if you're not already an RPG fan, this isn't the game that'll change your mind about it. Now, on to the more in-depth part of the review. Start with the story, which is most important for an RPG. And really, at the beginning, it's not really that special. For two of the characters, think Final Fantasy X. One guy's hometown is destroyed when the plot gets kicked off. One girl has to go on her quest to all these temples to save the world. They're even saving the crystals, so it's very typical with that. And there's also the guy who lost his memory, the girl who starts out with the villains and then betrays them to help you. It's all really very typical. But then the game starts playing with that. The guy who lost his memory has this journal that somehow describes future events he couldn't possibly know about. Like, even though he has no memory of ever being in an airship, he finds detailed instructions in that journal on how to pilot one. The girl who betrays the villains to help you ends up having to fight a lot of people she's really cared about. Like, she has to fight her father. She has to fight the guy who trained her as a warrior. She has to fight her best friend, and that really kind of wears at her a bit. The guy who lost his hometown is traumatized by all that, and that really comes through in some of the scenes. But above all that, the girl who's on the quest, it's still, as far as I got, to the point of just implication and everything, but it's heavily implied that quest is a really bad thing, and that the villains might actually have the better point trying to get her to stop it. But, I mean, there's also all these side quests, and the more you do them, the more you get this broad view of all the stuff that's happening. And it really kind of makes your quest seem minor in comparison. Like, you're doing this, and even if you succeed, there's all of this political stuff that's still happening. It's kind of like with Final Fantasy XII. As you can tell, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. But it's kind of like with Final Fantasy XII, how you're going through your quest, but you keep getting these cutscenes of just political stuff that's going on surrounding your quest. And you really kind of get this feeling that what you're doing, it's only important to the villains in terms of what it could turn into, not what it actually is at this point. But, with Bravely Default, it is a very interesting plot. Like, there's this one character, I don't want to spoil anything. Like, I don't want to spoil too much of anything, but he keeps showing up in places that he really shouldn't be at, and I don't know if I'm like halfway through the game or 2/3 or something there, but the plot just got really weird. Like, I'm not at all sure what exactly is going on anymore. But, I mean, it's an interesting plot, but it is a very slow burn. You have to get a good bit into the game before you're just like, wait, I gotta see what happens. Now, with this game, the gameplay is what really gets the most attention from people, both for its interesting use of its job system and for its difficulty. Make no mistake, this game is hard. This is really hard. There are no perfect strategies, and if you think you've found one, you're probably messing yourself up later on in the game. Like, I found this one way of sequence breaking a little that let me equip a thief with this bow that was just ridiculously powerful, and then I got to a point where the enemy's levels started to catch up, and this guy wasn't good at anything else. So he was no good as a thief anymore, and he was less good at anything else. The actual gameplay, the battle menus, they're pretty simple. Attack, abilities, items. But there's 2 extra commands. Brave, which gives you another action that turn, and Default, which you just guard that turn, but you save up your action points for a future turn. So each action you do takes up an action point. So you use the Brave command like 3 times for a maximum of 4 commands per turn, and you get like 4 actions that turn, but then you can't do anything for the next 3 turns unless you've been saving up the action points. Which, I abuse that when I need to level grind, because I have a black mage, and I just, at the start of the battle, blow all my action points for the next 3 turns, just spamming high level magic on everything in front of me. And if all the enemies just die, I don't have to care about the fact that I don't have action points for the next 3 turns, because it all resets at the beginning of the next battle. So, that's one thing that can make the game a little easier. Another thing is the fact that the game even gives you a bit of control over the random battles. There's a setting in the options where you can actually set how frequent you want the random battles to be. You can even just set it to 0 and just not get in any battles. Which, you do actually kind of got to be careful about that, because you could end up very badly underleveled. But what you can do if that happens is set the encounter rate to double, run around outside of town, level up like crazy, then go back to the inn, heal up completely, go back out, run around, level up, go back to the inn. That's what I've been doing for a good long while right now. Like, I ended up so poorly underleveled and leveled in the wrong classes that I'm just running around leveling up like crazy. But the class system, that's another thing I want to talk about, because it's actually the thing that I like the most about this game. You get all these classes just as you go through the game and do the side quests, and each class gets its own skill set, which just gradually just improves as you level up, and it also gets this list of passive abilities that you can just like mix and match on different characters. So you can have a knight with a white magic skill set so he can heal himself, and with passive abilities that give him extra boosts to his power and action points depending on how much he takes damage, and just set him to tank everything, heal himself, and then get a bunch of attacks out of it. It's a cool way that they do it. But I mean, I'm kind of looking at it from the angle of someone who already likes that kind of stuff. And I could really see someone who isn't into that much open-ended stuff and that much customizing just hating this game, because that's really the way you play it. Is mainly the gameplay is mainly in the customizing. So, it's one of those make of it as you will things. Now, the soundtrack, mostly kind of meh. The boss battle music, though, is pretty awesome. Specifically when you're fighting someone who has a new job that you're trying to get. That's got some pretty awesome battle music, and if I can figure out how to actually do it, I'll see if I can play it during this point of the review. Now, the voice acting, it really kind of feels phoned in a bit. You've got Bryce Papenbrook, who's been in like everything lately. He's also in Attack on Titan, which is starting this weekend on Toonami. He's been in everything lately. So I could kind of understand if he's not putting his all into every little bit. I'm sure he's got to be tired at this point. But it's like there are a few decent vocal performances, but they don't all stand out that much. Even these could be lesser known voice actors, and I wouldn't even notice. As for my big issue with the 3DS is that there's all these games on it that don't really use the 3D. Now, it's not just an eye thing with me, but I usually don't bother with the 3D, mainly because none of these games really need it, Bravely Default, the 3D really kind of feels like it wouldn't provide anything. It's just like, it's here, but it's really more of a downside, if you're not holding it the right way, or if you're, say, in a car and just kind of shifting around a little, you're gonna get a really bad view of it. So, it's one of the things that it's kind of a gripe of mine with the 3DS. It's a cool gimmick, but what exactly is the point, practically? Now, I do have, one tip about this game. Early on, the character who lost his hometown is put in charge of rebuilding it. This is this mini-game thing that pops up on the bottom screen, and it's kind of like a resource management game. You're just, okay, I'm gonna have this many people working on this building, I'm gonna have these people working on that, I'm gonna have these people on that, and let's just gradually build up stuff. I suggest everyone work on that. You can get some really overpowered stuff really early by just messing with that and building up certain... If you build up the weapon store, I forget which level it is, but you can get this one bow. I was talking about it earlier in this video. You can get this one bow that is just leaps and bounds above any other equipment you can get. At the earliest point you can actually get someone who's actually good with it is when you get the thief. And that thief, if you do my trick of just blow all your action points at once and just have him just attack everything, you'll basically win every random battle in that area in one turn. Like, if you have the right person set up as the thief, you can basically win every random battle before anyone else gets a chance to do anything. And I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of messed up, because the game punishes you so bad for it later on. Because eventually you're going to reach a point where that won't work anymore. And the end result is going to be you aren't really prepared for any of the stuff there. Like, all this stuff is just, it's too high a level for you, and that weapon just doesn't compare anymore. But you've spent so much time and effort just with that weapon and that job that you don't really have a good way of just jumping to another job and actually getting up to par with it. So, it's something that can make the early game a lot easier, but it's also something that could come back to bite you in the later game. Anyway, this was our review of Bravely Default. If I had to rank it out of 10, I would probably give it an 8. Just because, if you're already into that kind of game, you're going to absolutely love it. But if you're not, this game is going to do nothing for you. It's going to do nothing to change your mind. So, that's our review of Bravely Default. This is Nitesh, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be doing the next one. I am kind of hoping to get on a bit of a schedule with it. So, just stay tuned, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys later.